I woke up as the villainess in a novel. The plot demanded I be consumed by jealousy for the male lead's one true love, that I'd act out crazily and destructively until I was finally shipped off to a psychiatric hospital. I looked at the stunningly beautiful face in the mirror. Then I looked down at the unlimited black card in my hand, and then at the walk-in closet overflowing with Hermes bags. I had to laugh. An asylum? Whoever wants to go can have my spot. I was done. I was checking out. I was going to take the male lead's money and live my own goddamn life. Chen Yang's hand was clamped around my neck hard. I couldn't breathe. He had just come from a funeral. He carried the cloying scent of lilies and damp earth, a scent that mingled strangely with his usual cold, crisp sandalwood cologne. The combination was bizarre. "Xiao Yue," he said, his voice low and deep, banked with fire. "You'd better pray that Wan King is okay. If I ever see you imitate a single one of her expressions, a single one of her movements again," his fingers tightened, "I'll make you wish you were dead." My neck throbbed with pain. A tear escaped from the corner of my eye, an involuntary physiological response. Chen Yang's gaze fixed on that single tear turned even colder. I knew what he was thinking. In the novel, the villainous Zhang Xiaoyue loved nothing more than to imitate Chen Yang's one true love, Su Wan King. When Wan King cried, she looked exactly like this, pitiful, fragile, like a delicate white lotus. The me from before had spent 3 months practicing how to cry just like that in front of a mirror. So now, this perfectly timed tear, Chen Yang was convinced I was putting on another show. He flung me away. I stumbled, catching myself on the cold, hard surface of the vanity to keep from falling. My throat was on fire. I clutched my neck, hacking until my lungs ached. Chen Yang looked down at me, his eyes filled with the kind of revulsion you'd reserve for a piece of trash. "Remember my words," he said, yanking at his tie before turning to leave. "Stay away from Wan King. If she doesn't wake up today, you'll be buried with her." Slam. The bedroom door shuddered in its frame. I leaned on the vanity, gasping for air. The woman in the mirror was a wreck. Her face was flushed, tears clung to her lashes, and her hair was a mess. But damn, she was beautiful. Zhang Xiaoyue's face was a masterpiece, more vibrant, more aggressively stunning than Wan Qing's innocent girl-next-door purity. Too bad the novel's male lead, Chen Yang, had eyes for Wan Qing's type. He found Xiaoyue's beauty garish and conniving. That's why no matter how she mimicked Wan Qing, how she tried to please Chen Yang, how she schemed to break them up, she was destined to lose her family, her fortune, and her sanity, ending her days in an asylum. Tragic. I touched the red marks on my neck. The stinging pain was a sharp reminder. This wasn't a dream. I had really been transported into a book. I was the villainess with the miserable ending. Chen Yang's threat still echoed in my ears. "If she doesn't wake up today, you'll be buried with her." I remembered this was a key plot point. After Wan Qing returned to the country, Xiao Yue had arranged a minor car accident. Wan Qing was physically unharmed, but had fainted from the shock. Chen Yang, convinced Xiao Yue was behind it, had come to confront her. Then the original Xiao Yue had cried and screamed, swearing her innocence while trying to throw herself at him, using her body to win him back. The result, of course, was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Chen Yang's disgust had only deepened, laying the groundwork for him to eventually commit her. I looked at myself. I was wearing a silk slip of a nightgown, thin and translucent. Clearly it was the original owner's intended weapon. A shiver ran down my spine. I snatched the thick terry cloth robe from the back of a nearby chair and wrapped it tightly around me. Buried with her? An asylum? No, no, thank you. I valued my life very much, and since I was here as a rich, beautiful woman no less, why would I throw it all away? The male lead belonged to his true love, the money belonged to me. I walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling Philippines window. Outside, the Hongpu River glittered with the lights of Shanghai's most expensive district. Beneath my feet was a priceless hand-woven rug. The bags and jewels in my closet could fund several lifetimes of luxury. I touched my still sore neck. My mind was made up. I was checking out. I was done playing games. I would stay far away from the main characters, and I would take Chen Yang's money and enjoy my own goddamn life. Su Wanqing woke up the next morning. False alarm. Chen Yang hadn't shown up looking for me, probably wrapped up with his beloved. Perfect. More peace for me. The start of my grand retirement plan. Step 1. Move out of Chen Yang's penthouse. The place was too big, too empty, and way too cold. Too luxurious to be homey and too risky for accidental encounters with him. Bad for my mental health. I called a real estate agent. My instructions were simple. Downtown, spacious single-floor apartment, stunning view, fully furnished, move-in ready. That afternoon, I hauled my limited edition suitcases into my new home. Over 3,000 square feet of open space, sunlight streaming through a massive curved window wall. I collapsed on the sofa, which felt like floating on a cloud. I sighed. Finally, life. Step 2, sort out my finances. Zhang Xiaoyue might be obsessed with a man, but she was still the Zhang family heiress. Her dowry alone was a fortune, and while Chen Yang didn't love her, the Chen family cared about appearances. His monthly allowance to her account was astronomical. I opened my banking app. Seeing that endless string of zeros filled me with unfiltered joy. Forget Villainess. I was basking in goddess-level wealth.
Step 3. Sever every tie that could drag me back into the plot. In the story, Xiao Ye had bribed Chen Yang's assistants and hired private investigators to spy on him. Utterly ridiculous. I pulled up their contacts, typed a message, then hit send. Our arrangement is terminated. Final payment sent. Do not contact me again. Then block, delete, repeat. Finally, I opened the chat with Chen Yang. The history was painful, a cringeworthy diary of unrequited devotion. Chen Yang, it's cold today. Don't forget your coat. Chen Yang, I made soup. Shall I send it? Chen Yang, your stomach is sensitive. Don't overeat. His replies were mostly K, no, or silence. The last message from yesterday, Chen Yang, I know I was wrong. Please come home. I miss you. Second-hand embarrassment hit me like a truck. I typed, Chen Yang, we need to talk, then paused, deleted it, and rewrote, Mr. Chen, regarding yesterday, I must clarify. I had no part in Ms. Su's accident. I've moved out of the penthouse. Please contact me only if necessary. I wish you well. Perfect. Calm, distant, professional. Send. Then I renamed his contact to the ATM and silenced his notifications. Finally, the world felt quiet. I ordered an over-the-top seafood platter, grabbed an ice-cold Coke, and sank into the sofa to watch a mindless slapstick comedy. Laughter until my sides hurt. This was how a life should be lived. Days passed and I let myself be. The old Xiao Ye, always bending to Chen Yang's tastes, had worn muted colors, dainty dresses, and walked delicately. Now, baggy t-shirts with cartoon pandas, ripped jeans, flip-flops, bare-faced, but still enough to turn heads. Hole-in-the-wall eateries, food stalls, night markets, my new playground. 10 skewers in one hand, a giant bubble tea in the other, grease shining on my lips. Life was good. The old Xiao Ye forced herself to attend stuffy concerts and pretentious art shows. Now I lounged in my home theater, AC blasting, mountain of popcorn beside me, binging trashy dramas and blockbuster action movies, crying, laughing, living. The old Xiao Ye endured high society tease, subtly comparing and defending her failing marriage. Now I'd quit all group chats, ignored calls, tossed invitations, busy dominating online games, catching up on manhua, researching the spiciest Sichuan dishes. As for Chen Yang, the ATM, since my message saying we were done, radio silence. No games, no attempts to lure me back. Fine by me. His silence was a blessing. We were like two parallel lines, each in our own world. He lived in his meticulously scripted life, and I thrived in mine, enjoying freedom, indulgence, and a little chaos. Until Chen Yang's mother, my so-called mother-in-law, Madame Chen, had her birthday. There was no avoiding this event. The Chens were an elite, aristocratic family bound by rules and tradition. Madame Chen's birthday was always a grand affair held at their sprawling hillside estate in Hangzhou. When I arrived, the ballroom glittered with gowns, tuxedos, and an air thick with money and power. I glanced at myself. To show a sliver of respect, I'd worn a simple long black slip dress, safe, unremarkable. A silk scarf covered the faded marks on my neck from Chen Yang's fingers. Light foundation, muted rose lipstick, hair pulled into a modest twist, pearl studs for jewelry. On another day, I might have blended in perfectly. Here, surrounded by women who looked like they had robbed a high-end boutique, I looked plain, almost shabby. As expected, my entrance drew stares, curious, speculative, and perhaps a little smug. "Well, well, if it isn't Mrs. Chen," a shrill voice called. Mrs. Du, one of Xiao Yue's old frenemies. She sauntered over, eyes raking me like hooks. "Xiao Yue, darling, you look so plain. Didn't Chen Yang get you anything new for today?" She raised her voice deliberately. Nearby women tittered, covering their smiles with their hands. Honestly, on Madame Chen's special day, perhaps Chen Yang is a bit tight on funds, or maybe some people's positions are becoming unstable. Their words, dripping with insinuation, were meant to flaunt my supposed fall of grace. The old Xiao Ye would have reacted, face red, snapping a brittle defense, or running to Chen Yang for consolation. Exactly what they wanted. Now I picked up a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, took a slow sip, and finally looked at Mrs. Du. "You're looking well today, Mrs. Du," I said evenly. "That foundation almost matches your neck and face. Almost." Her smile froze. She touched her neck unconsciously, betraying herself with a subtle snort. "And you, Mrs. Wang," I turned to the other woman, "absolutely dazzling. Is that the new centerpiece from the Chen jewelry collection? I seem to remember a price tag with quite a few zeros. Your husband is generous." Her smile vanished, eyes darting nervously. She clutched her borrowed necklace like a lifeline. Business troubles clearly weighed heavily. I couldn't be bothered. I walked away, leaving them flustered and pale, or maybe flushed. Who could tell? Their attempts to provoke were tedious. I focused on what truly mattered, the food, headed straight for the dessert station. I had just grabbed a tempting slice of Black Forest cake when an icy voice froze me in place. "You certainly seem to be enjoying yourself." My hand trembled slightly. Chocolate nearly slid off the cake. I turned. Chen Yang stood a few feet away, impeccably tailored in black, tall and imposing. Next to him, Wan Qing, in a moon-white silk sheath dress, hair cascading softly, gentle, flawless smile, fragile, fresh, like a delicate orchid needing protection, a stark, brutal contrast to my simple black dress. Chen Yang's gaze flicked to the cake in my hand, then to my understated appearance. His brow furrowed almost imperceptibly, a mix of disgust and indifference clear in his eyes.
"Mother's looking for you," he said, his tone icy, as if giving an order to someone insignificant. "Go greet her, and mind yourself. Don't disgrace the Chen family name." Wan Qing tugged gently at his sleeve, her voice soft. "Chen Yang, don't say that to Xiao Yue. She looks nice today." Her eyes, full of innocent apology, met mine. "Xiao Yue, he didn't mean it like that. He's just worried his mother's been waiting." What a perfect little peacemaker. I watched her carefully. In the story, Wan Qing was always ambiguous, truly kind or a secret manipulator, but the tiny glimmer of triumph in her eyes was unmistakable. Tsk, I was too tired for their theatrics. "Got it," I said, my voice flat. "I'm going." Then, right in front of them, I took the slice of black forest cake in my hand and shoved the whole thing into my mouth. Not elegant, not polite, just pure indulgence. My cheeks puffed, chocolate melting on my tongue. Bliss. Chen Yang's brow twitched, his glare sharp as daggers. Wan Qing's expression froze, clearly shocked at my crude display. I chewed, swallowed, grabbed a glass of wine, and without another glance walked toward Madame Chen at the head table. Madame Chen, regal in deep purple, impeccably styled, looked up as I approached. Her polite smile faltered slightly, eyes sharp with judgment. "Mother, happy birthday," I said evenly. She acknowledged, brow arched. "Why are you dressed like that? Don't you understand the occasion? No sense of propriety." She gestured toward Chen Yang and Wan Qing. "And why are you wandering alone? Go join them immediately." Under this kind of pressure, the old Xiaoyue would have been a trembling bundle, fumbling and publicly humiliated. I inhaled deeply and met her gaze. "Mother, I'm not feeling well today. I apologize if I seem rude. I fear I might pass along my germs and spoil the evening. Now that I've paid my respects, I'll be leaving." She was speechless, clearly not expecting such directness. The old Xiaoyue would have endured any humiliation to impress Chen Yang. She stammered. "I wish you a long and healthy life. Your gift has been placed in your study by the butler," I added with a slight bow. Etiquette flawless. "Ladies, if you'll excuse me." Before anyone could react, I turned and walked out. My exit was clean, decisive. I could feel Madame Chen's astonished eyes, Chen Yang's cold, piercing stare, and the whispers of society women enjoying the spectacle. I didn't care. Outside, the night air was cool and refreshing. I called a rideshare, standing on the side of the road with the Chen estate behind me, a vast, cold cage. I kicked at a pebble. Freedom felt good. A little over a month later, Chen Yang came looking for me. It was a rainy weekend afternoon. I was curled up on the sofa, a sobbing mess, clutching a large tub of ice cream while watching an old tearjerker. The doorbell rang. Video intercom. Chen Yang, handsome, expressionless, damp from the rain. His features seemed sharper, colder. I frowned. What could he want? After a pause, I buzzed him in. After all, I couldn't leave the CEO of Chen Industries standing outside in the rain. He entered, bringing with him a chill and the scent of rain. His eyes scanned my living room. Empty snack wrappers, half-eaten chips, soda cans, the nearly empty ice cream tubs still in my hands. I wore a fluffy panda onesie. Tear tracks streaked my cheeks. A total disaster. Disgust flashed in his eyes. "What is it?" I asked, grabbing a tissue to blow my nose. I stayed put, no intention of offering him a drink. He hesitated, clearly unused to this attitude, before sitting in the armchair opposite me. Soft chair, soft landing, slightly uncomfortable even. "Next month is grandfather's 80th birthday," he said flatly, like it was business. "It will be at the family estate in Suzhou. You are expected to attend." "Oh," I said, shoveling a giant spoonful of ice cream into my mouth, cold but satisfying. Chen Yang's brow deepened at my crude gesture. "Xiaoyue," he said sharply, "watch your manners." I swallowed a mouthful of ice cream. "Mr. Chen, I'm in my own home, in pajamas, eating ice cream and watching a movie. What kind of manners do you expect me to show you?" I said calmly. "It's not like I'm out there embarrassing your family." His sharp gaze studied me like I had suddenly become a stranger. "What have you been doing lately?" he asked abruptly. I paused. "Eating, sleeping, playing games, watching shows. Why?" "You haven't been bothering Wan Qing." His suspicion was thick in his voice. I almost laughed in sheer frustration. Chen Yang, I told you before, Wan Qin's accident had nothing to do with me. I have no interest in meddling. I'm busy enjoying my life. I don't have time for your drama. I paused, then added, Don't worry. As long as you keep the deposits coming, I'll stay far away from both of you. You can have your epic, destined romance. I'll just be a quiet, on-paper Mrs. Chen. I won't interfere. Direct enough? Checked out enough for him? Chen Yang's expression darkened. His eyes were complex. Curiosity, confusion, perhaps even a flicker of offense. Xiaoyue, he said, his voice hard. You'd better mean that. Of course, I said, resuming my ice cream. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. He stood, towering over me. For grandfather's party, dress appropriately, don't embarrass yourself like last time. And just like that, he was gone. The door closed off, the oppressive chill he brought. I rolled my eyes. Jerk, I muttered, returning to my ice cream. On the screen, the hero and heroine were finally reunited, crying in each other's arms. I cried, too, along with them.
Grandfather Chen's 80th birthday was an even grander affair than his wife's. The main hall of the family estate, ancient and magnificent, gleamed with carved beams and intricate decorations. The guest list was a who's who of the country's elite: politicians, business tycoons, celebrated artists. Formality and festivity blended in the air. I had learned my lesson. I hired a stylist days in advance. We chose a conservative, dark red velvet gown, long-sleeved, high-necked, revealing nothing but my wrists. Hair in a flawless updo, small jade earrings, subtle makeup. I looked demure, elegant, and utterly non-threatening, perfectly suited for the role of the on-paper Mrs. Chen. When Chen Yang saw me, his gaze lingered briefly. No words, just a slight nod. Wan Qing was there too, ethereal in a pale pink chiffon gown, sweet, fairy-like, standing by Chen Yang. He treated her warmly, shielding her, speaking softly. Observers whispered among themselves, See, that's the one he really cares about. The real wife is just for show. Probably won't be long before she's out for good. I ignored them, grabbed a glass of juice, and found a quiet corner. The ceremony dragged on. Speeches, gift presentations, cake cutting, until the banquet. Seated at the massive round table, hierarchy dictated placement. As granddaughter-in-law, I sat next to Chen Yang. Wan Qing was at another table with some extended family. A flicker of disappointment crossed her face, noticed by Chen Yang, though he stayed silent. Exquisite dishes followed. Lobster bisque, pan-seared sea bass, truffle-stuffed quail. I ate with gusto. Eat more, talk less, my motto. Oblivious to Chen Yang barely touching his food, preoccupied with his family. Yet his gaze occasionally flicked to me, expression complicated. As wine flowed and the atmosphere lightened, Wan Qing approached our table gracefully with a glass of red wine in hand. Chen Yang, Xiaoye, I'd like to propose a toast to grandfather for a long and happy life. Her blush was soft, sincere. Chen Yang looked at me silently, signaling it was my turn to play Mrs. Chen. I put down the half-eaten crab leg, wiped my hands, and raised my glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. Thank you, I said flatly. I appreciate the thought. I'll stick with juice. Wan Qing's smile faltered. She looked troubled. Xiaoye? She hesitated, glancing between her wine and my juice. Several elders now stared, disapproving. Chen Yang's uncle frowned. Xiaoye, Wan Qing went out of her way to toast you. Juice? You have no manners. You're embarrassing, Chen Yang. Chen Yang's face darkened. Xiaoye, pick up your wine, he commanded, tone sharp. Here we go again, as if I existed solely to prop up Chen Yang's image and uphold Chen family manners. The old Xiaoye would have swallowed it all, despite her poor tolerance, to earn a scrap of Chen Yang's approval. Now, I looked at Chen Yang's stern, handsome face, at Wan Qing's near-tears expression, and at the expectant, judgmental gazes around me. A small spark of annoyance began to smolder inside me.
I set down my juice glass. I grabbed a clean, unused small bowl from the table. Then, picking up the serving spoon from the centerpiece dish, I scooped a generous portion of the steaming, fiery Sichuan beef. Under the stunned eyes of everyone present, I poured that massive spoonful, chili oil dripping, peppers glistening, into the glass of red wine Wan Qing was holding. Sizzle. The wine instantly turned a murky, oily red with chili flakes and slices of beef floating on top. The room froze. Time seemed to stop. Wan Qing's face went white. Her hand trembled around this Sichuan beef red wine concoction. Chen Yang sprang to his feet, ashen. "Xiao Ye, what are you doing?" His voice thundered. A vein throbbed in his temple. I calmly dabbed a few drops of chili oil on my hand with a napkin, looked up and took in the scene. Chen Yang practically on fire, Wan Qing near tears, and the circle of horrified faces surrounding us. I tugged the corner of my mouth into a fake, uninspired smile. "Weren't we making a toast?" I said sweetly. I gestured toward the glass in Wan Qing's hand. "A toast for a toast. I call this one good fortune. My treat. Here's to you." I let my gaze linger on Chen Yang's thunderous expression. "Wishing you a bright future. Bottoms up." Someone in the room couldn't hold it in and burst into laughter. They covered their mouth, but in the heavy silence, the sound was piercingly clear. Wan Qing's tears finally spilled. "Chen Yang," she whispered, trembling. Chen Yang snatched the horrid concoction from her hand and slammed it on the table. Chili oil splashed onto the expensive tablecloth. "Xiao Ye," he spat my name like a curse. I met his gaze without flinching, almost wanted to laugh. "Mr. Chen," I said, terrifyingly calm, "the toast is complete. May I get back to my crab leg?" I dabbed at my lips with a clean napkin. "Or," I added, "do you think my mere presence here is what's really embarrassing your family?" Chen Yang's chest heaved. Fury radiated from him, but for the first time he said nothing. He just stared, as if seeing me in a new light. The room was pin-drop quiet. Everyone watched this absurd, farcical scene unfold. Finally, Chen Yang grabbed his suit jacket, swept up the still sobbing Wan Qing, and stormed out. Rage and humiliation radiated from his back. I watched them disappear, then turned to the stunned, gaping crowd. Calmly, I picked up my half-eaten crab leg and continued eating. Cold. Not as good. After that disastrous banquet, my relationship with Chen Yang didn't just hit rock bottom, it plummeted straight to the Earth's core. The story of Mrs. Chen humiliates the one true love by forcing her to drink chili oil-infused wine, enraging the CEO into storming out, became the top gossip topic of the year. Each retelling was more embellished than the last. I was crazy, desperate, a woman scorned, bent on revenge. I didn't care. Life went on. Chen Yang never contacted me again. The allowance, however, was still deposited on schedule. Reliable, at least in that regard. The ATM was consistent. For a while, life was peaceful. I slept in, ordered takeout, watched shows, played games. Sometimes I explored the city, hunting for hidden culinary treasures. Life was like that of a retired old lady. Until my useless mother showed up. Mrs. Jiang, Xiao Yue's biological mother, a woman who treated me not as a daughter, but as a tool for climbing social ladders and strengthening family ties with the Chens. In the original memories, there was no maternal warmth, only endless demands and control. She needed me to capture Chen Yang's attention, secure my place as Mrs. Chen, and benefit the Jiang family. The old Xiao Yue would have obeyed without question. Now, Mrs. Jiang stormed into my apartment, face twisted in rage. "Xiao Yue, look at what you've done." She slammed a gossip magazine onto the coffee table. The cover screamed, "Mrs. Chen's jealous rage publicly humiliates rival. Chen CEO storms out in fury." "You've completely disgraced me," she shrieked, finger jabbing at my nose. "All the other wives are laughing at me." I was curled up on the sofa with a bag of chips. "Oh, that's all you have to say?" Her voice rose to a screech. "Do you have any idea how much trouble the Jiang family is in? Several of our projects depend on scraps from the Chen family. And what do? You go and piss off Chen Yang." She lunged forward and snatched the bag of chips from my hands. "Eat, eat, eat. That's all you know how to do. Look at you. You're no different from a useless bum." I looked at her flushed, angry face and felt nothing. "So what do you want me to do?" I asked calmly. "Go apologize to Chen Yang. Beg that little brat Wan King for forgiveness." I snorted. "Beg him to forgive you. Move back in with him, and for heaven's sake, figure out how to get pregnant. Once you have a child, your position is secured." The same old song. I smirked. "Mother," I said flatly, "you know as well as I do that Chen Yang's heart belongs to Wan King. If I go begging, it will only annoy him. No point in trying anymore." "Then figure something out," she yelled. "Learn from Wan King. Learn how she charms men. Act weak, act pitiful, act understanding. You're better looking than she is. If you just swallow your pride—" "I can't," I interrupted. "You have to," she screeched. "Xiao Yue, you don't forget who you are. You're a daughter of the Jiang family. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, sent you to study abroad, and married you into the Chen family, not for you to sit around like a useless slob. You have a responsibility to this family." There it was again, that "we gave you life, we raised you" guilt trip, the one that had suffocated the original Xiao Yue. I stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the bustling city below. "Mother," I said quietly, my back to her, "the money the Jiang family spent raising me, I'll pay it back." She froze. "What?" I turned to face her. "The monthly allowance Chen Yang gives me, untouched, add that to my dowry and personal savings." I named a figure large enough for her to gasp. "Is that enough to cover the cost of raising me?" Mrs. Jiang's mouth opened and closed. "If it's not enough," I continued, "I have funds, stocks, and several properties I can liquidate. Altogether, it should be more than enough to patch the Jiang family's financial gaps." She was stunned, staring at me as if I were some mythical creature. "Xiao Yue, are you insane? That's your money. That's for your future." "My future?" I laughed. "My future has nothing to do with the Jiang family." I stepped closer. "The money my lawyer will handle. Transfer it to the family account. Consider it my payment to buy back the kindness of raising me all these years. From now on, the Jiang family is the Jiang family, and I am me. You go your way, I'll go mine. Don't come looking for me again, and don't think about using me to leverage any family projects." I spoke slowly, deliberately, every word a clear slat across her face. Her expression shifted from anger to shock, then to a pale, incredulous ash. "You—" Her finger trembled as she pointed at me. "Ungrateful child, viper, we raised you for nothing. Without the Jiang family, without the title of Mrs. Chen, you are nothing." "Then you don't have to worry about me anymore," I said coldly. "The door is over there. Don't let it hit you on the way out." Mrs. Jiang snatched her Hermes bag, shot one last venomous glare, and stormed out. Her heels clicked furiously, the door slamming behind her with a final, echoing rattle. I stood staring at the empty doorway. Relief didn't come. Instead, there was a hollow feeling in my chest. Was it the remains of the original Xiao Yue's emotions, or just the last laughable shred of hope I'd held for something called family? I shook my head, clearing the useless thoughts. I went to the fridge, grabbed a cold beer, popped it open, and took a long swig. The bitter liquid slid down my throat. But damn, it was satisfying. True to her word, Mrs. Jiang never came looking for me again. All contact with the Jiang family ceased. The world was finally completely quiet. I had settled into a truly secluded life of retirement. Time passed quickly. Half a year later, it was late autumn, the air carrying a crisp chill.
One day, I was at home binge-watching a new food documentary.
My mouth watered, especially during a segment about an old noodle shop tucked away in a quiet alley. The steaming bowl of red oil Sichuan beef noodles on the screen. The chef's practiced movements of pulling the noodles, pouring the broth, sprinkling the green onions. It was a siren's call, and the address was right here in the city. I threw off the throw, slipped into a hoodie and jeans, grabbed my phone and keys, and bolted. Chunyang? The Jiang family? The entire dramatic plot of the novel? None of it could compete with the siren song of noodles. I followed the GPS through a maze of streets and finally arrived at the unassuming little shop, Old Chang's Beef Noodles. The sign was faded and peeling. A few greasy folding tables and small plastic stools were set up outside. It was lunchtime and the place was packed. The air was thick with a rich aroma of beef broth and chili oil. I swallowed hard. Time to get in line. When it was my turn, I ordered with gusto. 1 beef noodle, double beef. Add an egg, extra spicy. You got it. Find a seat inside, the lady boss called, her voice booming as she worked with brisk efficiency. There were no seats inside. I snagged a small stool in a corner outside and settled in. That's when I heard it, a familiar, soft voice tinged with grievance. Chunyang, I really didn't expect this to happen. That Mr. Qin, It was Wan Qing. I instinctively glanced over. It really was her, wearing a white knit dress and beige trench coat, looking pure and fragile. Across from him, with his back to me, sat someone in a dark gray cashmere coat, broad shoulders, straight back. Chunyang. I couldn't see his face, only hear his deep, steady voice. I know, I'll handle it. But Wan Qing's voice quavered. The project fell through, and Mr. Wang, Chunyang, it's all my fault. I'm useless. I couldn't even manage something so small. It's not your fault, Chunyang said flatly. Mr. Qin was never a good person to begin with. Then what do we do now? She asked helplessly. Chunyang paused. Let's eat first. Just then, the lady boss arrived with my noodles. Miss, 1 double beef, extra egg, extra spicy. Careful, it's hot. Her booming voice drew attention from everyone nearby, including Chunyang and Wan Qing. Chunyang's head turned. His eyes swept over the crowd and landed on me just as I looked up. Our gazes locked. Time froze. Chunyang's pupils contracted. His face remained an unreadable mask, but the shock in his eyes was unmistakable. He hadn't expected to see me here, in a messy, grimy, hole-in-the-wall noodle shop. Jiang Xiaowei in a cheap hoodie and jeans, hair tied back carelessly, no makeup, sitting on a grimy plastic stool, a bowl of terrifyingly red noodles piled high with beef and a fried egg in front of me, looking like any other ordinary office worker. Wan Qing gasped beside him, hand flying to her mouth. Jiang Xiaowei! I didn't look at them again. I picked up my chopsticks, stirred the glistening noodles, and lifted a large bundle to my lips. Slurp. The noodles, slick with chili oil and broth, slid smoothly down my throat. Fragrant, spicy, hot. The beef was tender, flavorful, the noodles chewy. The fried egg perfectly runny with crispy edges. One bite sent a jolt through me, sweat beading on my forehead. Pure, soul-shaking bliss. I exhaled, savoring the moment, but I couldn't stop. I ate with reckless focus, completely ignoring the 2 multi-millionaires at the next table. Chunyang's gaze didn't waver. His look was analytical, almost as if he were studying some astonishingly strange new species. Wan Qing tugged gently at his sleeve. Chunyang, let's go, shall we? This isn't a good place to talk. Chunyang didn't move. He continued to watch me sweat over the spice, watch my lips redden from the chili, watch me casually wipe oil from my chin as I slurped down another mouthful. His brow, tightly furrowed at first, slowly began to relax. The shock and judgment in his eyes melted into something deeper, more inscrutable. Excuse me, he said suddenly. His voice wasn't loud, but even in the noisy environment, it carried that unmistakable tone of command. The lady boss, busy at the stove, called without looking up. What is it? 1 bowl of beef noodles, Chunyang said. Wan Qing froze. I paused mid-bite, staring at him in surprise. Chunyang, as if oblivious to the stares around us, added, "The same as hers, double beef, extra egg, extra spicy." Wan Qing's face drained of color. "Chunyang, you can't eat spicy food. Your stomach—" "It's fine. I said it's fine," he interrupted flatly. "You got it. Just a minute," the lady boss called back. Wan Qing looked from him to me, confusion and hurt flickering across her features, mixed with something I couldn't quite name, suspicion. I shrugged and returned my attention to my bowl. Whatever, food comes first. Soon, Chunyang's noodles arrived, an identical fiery red bowl piled high with beef and a fried egg steaming with rich aroma. He lifted the disposable chopsticks, snapping them apart with a slightly awkward motion. A few strands of noodles hovered over the bowl, coated in thick chili oil and seeds. He hesitated, then brought them to his lips. He chewed slowly, and then, perpetually stoic, perfectly composed face flushed a deep, comical red. It spread from the tips of his ears down his neck. A vein throbbed in his temple. Then came the coughing. Violent, gut-wrenching, body-shaking coughing. Tears streamed down his face. The cold, aloof CEO facade had completely crumbled. Wang Sheng panicked, handing him a bottle of water. "Chunyang, drink this. I told you no spicy food." He grabbed it and gulped down several large swallows before finally regaining control. His eyes were red-rimmed, lips swollen, forehead slick with sweat. Not a trace remained of the imperious, untouchable CEO. I couldn't help myself. A soft, suppressed laugh escaped. Pfft. Chunyang's head snapped up. His gaze, red and furious, cut straight to me. If looks could kill, I'd have been toast 100 times over. He finally shot to his feet, the sudden movement nearly tipping over his barely touched noodles. "Let's go," he rasped at Wang Sheng. Without another glance at me, he grabbed a still-dazed Wang Sheng and practically fled, leaving the steaming bowl behind. Alone, I collapsed onto the small, greasy table, laughing until I couldn't breathe. Tears streamed down my face. The great noodle incident of the year. Totally worth it. After that, Chunyang seemed to vanish from my world. Even the monthly allowance, always reliable before, stopped arriving. I checked my account. Plenty of money remained, enough to last several lifetimes. Fine by me. The last nominal tie severed. Life returned to its peaceful routine. Reading, movies, games, occasional forays to hunt hidden culinary treasures in the city. Days flowed like water. By year-end, the weather had grown colder. I bundled up in a thick down jacket and visited a newly opened hot spring resort in the suburbs near Suzhou. The online reviews praised their buffet. After a long, relaxing soak, I shuffled to the buffet restaurant, hair still damp. Plate of grilled shrimp and small cakes in hand, I found a quiet table by the window when I overheard a familiar argument from the other side of a partition. "Wang Sheng, how long are you going to keep this up?" "Me? I'm not the one making a scene, Chunyang." Wang Sheng's voice cracked, sharp and shrill, thick with tears. "That Xiaoye, she's a lunatic. The way she acted at the noodle shop, she deliberately made a fool of you, and you still—" "It has nothing to do with her," he interrupted, impatient. "How can it not? You've changed since she reappeared. You never used to look at me like that. You wouldn't have gone to a low-class place like that. You wouldn't eat that food. It's all you. She's turned you into this." "That's enough." His voice cut sharp, warningly cold. The buffet area went silent for a moment, all attention subtly drawn to their argument. I forked a piece of cake into my mouth. Sweet, creamy, but not too rich. Completely satisfying. "Chunyang," Wang Sheng's voice softened, heavy with grievance and fear. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell. I'm so afraid of losing you. Xiaoye, she's not worthy of you. She's crude, uncouth, she embarrasses you. Only I am the one who truly loves you, who understands you." Chunyang went silent long enough that I thought they had left. Then he spoke, finally, his voice weighted with weariness and a strange distance. "Wang Sheng, we both need to calm down." "No, Chunyang, I don't want to calm down. For a while," he interrupted, firm, leaving no room for argument. I heard Wang Shang's heels clicking quickly as she ran away, presumably in tears. Then heavier footsteps approached in my direction. I kept my head down, peeling the last grilled shrimp on my plate, dipping it in sauce, utterly focused. Chen Yang appeared at my table, bathrobe loosely tied, damp hair plastered to his forehead, his pale face marked with faint dark circles. He looked exhausted. He simply stood there, watching me eat with blissful concentration, the pile of shrimp shells and empty cake plates spread around me, expression unreadable. I didn't look up. I didn't invite him to sit. Only the soft chewing filled the quiet. "You heard all that?" he asked, voice low. I swallowed, wiped my hands with a napkin, then met his gaze. "Yeah," I said. "The walls are thin." A corner of his mouth twitched, a fleeting, almost imperceptible smile. "Sorry you had to see that." "It's fine," I said, flatly. Silence stretched between us. His gaze studied me, searching, analyzing. "Xiaoye," he said. You, he paused, choosing his words carefully. "The way you are now, it's good." I raised an eyebrow. "Thanks for the compliment." My tone held a touch of sarcasm. He ignored it, his eyes still steady, deep. "Before, I was wrong about you," he said quietly, each word deliberate. I blanked. An apology or some rare CEO epiphany? I smirked. "You're too kind, Mr. Chen," I said, sipping my juice. "I was immature before, causing trouble. We're fine now. We don't bother each other." I stood, picking up my plate. "Enjoy your meal. I'm leaving." A few steps later, his voice stopped me, stubborn, insistent. "That bowl of noodles." I turned, confused. He stood there, bathrobe loosely tied, damp hair plastered, collarbone exposed. The sharp, distant air was gone. Vulnerable, almost human. "It was finished later," he said. I stared. "It was very spicy," he continued, as if reporting a significant finding. "But it was good." I looked at him. The man who once threatened me, who once looked at me like I was worthless, now awkward, obstinate. I felt nothing, almost wanted to laugh. "Oh," I nodded. "That's nice. You could try mild next time," I offered. I took my empty plate and walked away without another glance, leaving him and his belated, bizarre realization behind. Winter turned to spring. Succulents on my balcony sprouted vibrant green shoots. I sprayed water over them when the phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Excuse me, is this Miss Jiang Xiaoyue?" A professional, middle-aged male voice asked. "It is." "Good morning. I am Mr. Chen Yang's attorney, Mr. Zhang." My heart skipped a beat. A lawyer. Was the ATM finally making a move? Divorce? Would he leave me with nothing? "Please don't misunderstand," Mr. Zhang said, sensing my silence. "This concerns the divorce agreement between you and Mr. Chen. He has entrusted me to handle all the arrangements." I knew it. I collected myself. "Okay, go on." "Mr. Chen's wishes are that the terms of the agreement be entirely at your discretion. The apartment you currently reside in, as well as all funds previously transferred to your personal accounts, including stocks and mutual funds, will remain your sole property, as—" Mr. Zhang paused, "as compensation for the past." "Compensation?" I snorted. "Furthermore," Mr. Zhang continued, "if you have any other demands, such as real estate, cash settlements, or—" "I don't," I cut him off. "Pardon?" I said, "I don't have any other demands," I said calmly. "We'll do it as he said. When do I sign?" Mr. Zhang hesitated, probably not expecting such straightforwardness. "Are you sure you don't want to consider any other terms?" "I'm sure," I said, gazing out at the bright sunlight. "The sooner the better." "Very well," he said, regaining his professional composure. "I have the agreement ready. When would be a convenient time for you to sign, or I could have it delivered to you? Don't go to the trouble. Email me the digital copy. I'll sign and send it back." That would be acceptable," he said, slightly surprised. "Shall I send it now?" "Please do." Moments later, a new email arrived. I opened it, downloaded the thick PDF, and scrolled straight to the last page. Signature line. I picked up my tablet and stylus. With a flourish, I signed my name, Jiang Xiaoyue. No hesitation, no regret, only the sweet release of finality. I scanned the page and emailed it back. Signed, "Thank you for your assistance." I set the tablet down and stretched, letting the warm sunlight soak into my skin. From this day forward, Jiang Xiaoyue was completely, utterly free. The divorce finalized quietly. When I held the crisp new decree, it felt like a passport to a new life. The first thing I did was put the apartment on the market. The agent's eyes widened. "Miss Jiang, this location, this layout, these renovations, are you sure you want to sell? The market isn't at its peak." "I'm sure," I said firmly. "And the price? 10% below market value. I want a quick sale." The agent grinned. "No problem. Leave it to me." The apartment sold quickly to a flashy, wealthy buyer. On handover day, I stood at the door with the same limited edition suitcase I had arrived with, taking one last look at the sanctuary I'd called home. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Goodbye, Mrs. Chen." I closed the door and walked away without looking back. On the other side of the city, in an old, bustling neighborhood near the former French concession, I rented a small street-front shop, maybe 100 square feet, with a tiny back room for living. It had been a bubble tea shop that had gone bust. I took it over, painted the walls white, installed second-hand stainless steel counters, and hung a simple sign, "Xiaoyue's Noodles." Opening day was quiet, just a few firecrackers to draw the neighbors' curiosity. "Hey, a new noodle shop. The owner's young and pretty. Can she even cook? She doesn't look the type." I stood behind a steaming pot, apron on. The aroma of beef bone broth, simmered all night, filled the air. On the counter, hand-pulled noodles were perfectly uniform and chewy. The beef, topped with my secret recipe, glistened red.
Grand opening special for 3 days. Buy one bowl of beef noodles, get one free, I called out with a smile. Curious locals wandered in. "Boss Lammy, is it really buy one, get one? I'll have a bowl. Let's see." "Me too." I worked with precision, boiling noodles, pouring broth, piling beef, sprinkling bright green scallions. Bowl after bowl went out, steaming and fragrant. "Whoa, look at all this meat. You're not skimping." The broth is so rich, and the noodles, chewy perfection. She knows what she's doing. "Delicious. I'll take another, and the free one for my son." The little shop came alive. Slurps, chatter, laughter, the warm, messy reality of everyday life. I stood behind the counter, sweat on my forehead, heart full. This was life. Real, scalding hot, and completely, entirely in my own hands. Word spread quickly. Xiaoye's noodles became a neighborhood sensation. Lines often formed outside. I was a one-woman whirlwind, cooking, plating, taking orders, collecting money. Exhausted, yes, but fulfilled. One day at noon, just after the lunch rush, I was sitting on a small stool, rubbing my aching back when the wind chime on the door tinkled. "Welcome! What can I get for you? The menu's on the wall," I called out without looking up. One bowl of beef noodles. A deep, familiar male voice. My hand froze mid-rub. I looked up. Chen Yang was standing in the doorway. He wasn't wearing his signature expensive suit, just a simple black button-down shirt, sleeves casually rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His hair wasn't slicked back. A few strands fell across his forehead. He looked less sharp, more weary. He looked at me, at my small, crowded, chaotic noodle shop, at my grease-stained apron, at my pale, tired face. His eyes were deep, complex. "Mr. Chen," I stood, surprised. "How did you find this place?" Your lawyer mentioned it," he said, walking in and spotting a small plastic stool against the wall. The stool was too low for him. He folded his long legs awkwardly, looking almost comical. "You want noodles?" I asked. "Yes," he nodded. "Beef noodles, with double beef and an egg." He paused. "Mild." I looked at him. He looked back, calm, with a gaze I couldn't quite decipher. Not pity, not charity, not curiosity. More like confirmation. "All right, one moment," I said, turning to the stove. I worked efficiently.
boiling water, adding noodles, draining them, pouring in hot bone broth, piling on a generous layer of beef, frying a golden yolked egg and placing it on top. Finally, a sprinkle of green onions. "Your noodles, mild," I said, placing the bowl on the small folding table in front of him. The aroma of beef, broth, and a hint of chili oil filled the small space. Chen Yang looked at the bowl, then at me. He picked up the disposable chopsticks, broke them apart, and lifted a tangle of noodles to his lips. His movements were still a bit clumsy, but deliberate. He chewed slowly, then nodded. "It's very good," he said, sincere. I offered a slight smile. "That'll be 25 yuan. I pointed to the QR code on the wall. "Cash or card?" Chen Yang froze. A flicker of shock passed over his face. He probably hadn't expected me to ask so directly. He pulled a crisp 100 yuan bill from his wallet and held it out. "Keep the change." I didn't take it. "Mr. Chen, this is a small business. I don't run tabs and I don't take tips." I pointed again to the QR code. 25 yuan. Please scan." His hand froze midair. He met my eyes, calm, professional. No hint of spite, no provocation, purely business. After a long moment, he put the bill away, took out his phone and scanned the QR code. "Beep, payment received, 25 yuan." A cold electronic voice announced. "Thank you for your business," I said, offering a professional smile. "Enjoy your meal." I turned to the back of the shop where a mountain of dishes awaited. The sound of running water and clattering bowls filled the space. In the front, Chen Yang sat alone, his bowl of noodles steaming in front of him. He didn't eat quickly. He took his time, quietly savoring each bite. When he finished, he stood, placed his bowl and chopsticks neatly in the bus tub by the door, and left without another word. The wind chime tinkled softly behind him. He came back the next week, same time, same order. Beef noodles, double beef, egg, mild. He paid with his phone, scanning the code without being asked. He ate in silence, left neatly. No conversation. It became a pattern. Every Wednesday afternoon, like clockwork. He never brought one king. He never mentioned the past. He was just a customer, a regular. One particularly hot Wednesday, I was wiping down counters, drenched in sweat. He finished his meal, stood, but instead of leaving immediately, he hesitated. He looked at the small, overloaded air conditioner struggling in the corner, then at my flushed face. "You should get a better cooling system," he said abruptly, "for the kitchen. Heat stroke is no joke." I looked up, surprised. "I'll look into it."
He gave a curt nod and left. The next Wednesday, a delivery man showed up at my door with 2 brand-new high-powered industrial fan blowers. "Delivery for Miss Chong from a Mr. Chen," he said. I stared at the boxes, a strange tightness in my chest. Not gratitude, not exactly, more like bewilderment. I installed the fans. They were fantastic. When he came that week, the shop was noticeably cooler. He said nothing, just ate his noodles. As he was leaving, I called out, "Mr. Chen." He turned. "The fans, thank you." My voice was stiff but sincere. He met my gaze, and for a fleeting second, something softened in his eyes. It wasn't the cold disdain I was used to. It was something else, something quiet. "You're welcome," he said, and then he was gone. The weeks turned into months. My little noodle shop thrived. I hired a part-time helper, a cheerful local college student named Al Yang. Life settled into a new, satisfying rhythm of hard work and simple pleasures. Chen Yang remained my Wednesday regular. We exchanged maybe a dozen words beyond the transactional in all that time. It was a strange, silent truce, a parallel existence, once forced, now chosen from a distance. One rainy Wednesday, business was slow. He was my only customer. He finished his noodles and sat for a while, watching the rain streak down the window. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, just present. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer than usual, almost lost in the patter of the rain. "It's peaceful here." I was rolling dough for the next day's noodles. I didn't stop. "It is," I agreed. He continued, still looking out the window. "I never understood it before, the appeal of this, something real you've built with your own hands. It's not just about escaping, is it?" I paused, dusting flour from my hands.
No, it's not about escaping from something, it's about running towards something. Yourself, maybe. He turned to look at me then, his gaze profound and searching. The rain light played on his face, smoothing away the usual sharp edges of corporate power. In that moment, he wasn't Chen Yang, the unattainable male lead, the cold CEO. He was just a man in a noodle shop on a rainy afternoon, witnessing a life utterly foreign to his own. I see, he murmured, more to himself than to me. He stood, paid, and walked to the door. He paused, hand on the frame. "Xiao Ye," he said without turning around. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you found your way here." Then he stepped out into the rain, pulling his collar up, and disappeared down the glistening street. I stood there, flour on my apron, the scent of broth in the air, the rhythmic sound of the rain on the awning. The ghost of his words lingered, not as a burden, but as a final, gentle punctuation to a story that was now well and truly over. I smiled, a real, easy smile that reached my eyes. I turned back to my dough, kneading it with strong, sure hands. Outside, the city moved on, full of its own dramas and destinies. But in here, in the warm, steamy heart of my little shop, my own story, simple, spicy, and entirely my own, was just beginning, one perfect bowl at a time. The rain slowed to a drizzle, and the usual hum of the neighborhood returned. Bicycles ringing, distant chatter, the sizzle from the fried dumpling stall down the street. Chen Yang's words, "I'm glad you found your way here," hung in the humid air for a moment before dissolving, like steam from the broth pot. They didn't change anything. They were an observation, not a key. My life wasn't waiting for his validation anymore. Al Yang bustled in, shaking water from his jacket. "Boss, yeah, sorry I'm late. The bus was a nightmare." "It's fine. The dough for tomorrow is ready. Let's start prepping the beef," I said, and we fell into our familiar, comfortable routine. The weeks turned, the seasons shifted. Chen Yang remained a Wednesday fixture. Sometimes he'd offer a practical, unsolicited piece of advice. "Your signage is fading. People can't read it from across the street." The next week, a sleek new lightbox sign, paid for anonymously, would be delivered. I'd grumble about his interference, but the sign was better. Our interactions stayed in that strange, neutral zone, more than strangers, less than friends. Two people who had shared a catastrophic past, now orbiting each other in a new, quieter solar system. One rainy Wednesday, he didn't come. I didn't think much of it. CEOs travel. He had a life, a company, Wan Qing. But when he missed the next week and the week after that, a tiny, irrational flicker of concern sparked. I stamped it out. Not my business. A month later, a sleek business magazine was left on the counter by a customer. The cover story? Chen Industries in transition. Scion Chen Yang steps back from day-to-day operations, pursues new ventures. I skimmed the article. It was full of corporate jargon about strategic refocusing and personal growth initiatives. The photo showed him at some charity gala with Wan Qing on his arm, her smile as perfect and fragile as ever. The caption noted they were still close companions. I tossed the magazine into the recycling bin. So he was restructuring his life. Good for him. Had nothing to do with me. Then, on a crisp autumn Wednesday, the wind chime tinkled. It wasn't Chen Yang.
It was Su Wanjing. She looked out of place in my humble shop, like a porcelain doll accidentally placed on a carpenter's workbench. She wore a tasteful cream-colored coat, her hair impeccably styled, but her eyes held a nervous, determined energy I'd never seen before. "Xiao Yue," she said, her voice soft. I wiped my hands on my apron. "Miss Su, this is a surprise. What can I get you?" She flinched at the polite distance. I'm not here for noodles. May I speak with you? Just for a moment?" I gestured to the lone empty stool. She perched on it delicately, as if afraid it might soil her. "He's leaving, you know," she said without preamble, her eyes searching mine. "Xiao Yang. He's moving to Shenzhen. He's starting a new tech incubator, something completely separate from the family business." "I heard," I said neutrally. "He asked me to go with him." She twisted the strap of her purse. I said no. That did surprise me. I raised an eyebrow. All these years, she continued, her voice gaining a brittle edge, all these years I thought I understood him. I thought we wanted the same things, the beautiful life, the perfect story. But after everything, after you, he changed. He started asking questions I couldn't answer. He wanted to visit factories, talk to engineers, eat at street stalls. He said he felt like he'd been living in a beautifully furnished, empty room. She let out a shaky laugh. He said he envied you. I stayed silent, letting her talk. He said you were the only one who was ever real. Even when you were pretending to be me, you were at least trying to feel something. And then you stopped pretending, and you became entirely yourself. He said it was the most terrifying and admirable thing he's ever seen. A single, perfect tear traced its way down her cheek. This time, it didn't look practiced. It looked lost. I realized I've been pretending too. Pretending to be fragile, pretending to be satisfied, pretending that being the one true love in his script was enough. But it's not a script anymore. He's rewriting his whole life, and he doesn't have a part for me in the new version. Or I don't want the part he's offering. She looked up, her gaze clear now, free of its usual innocent shimmer. I'm not here to blame you or fight you. I suppose I'm here to say you won, completely. I shook my head slowly. Wanqing, there was never a war. I resigned from the battlefield, remember? You can't win a game you're not playing. She stared at me. Then a slow, genuine, albeit sad smile touched her lips. Yes, I see that now. I think I need to resign too. She stood up, smoothing her coat. Goodbye, Xiao Yue. Your noodles, they do smell wonderful. Good luck, Wanqing, and I meant it. She left, a solitary, elegant figure disappearing into the bustling, real world. I felt a pang, not of triumph, but of a strange, shared relief. We were both prisoners of the same story. Now we were both free to write our own. Winter came, bringing with it a flurry of activity. The shop was busier than ever. I hired another part-timer and even catered a small local wedding. My life was full, my hands were busy, my heart was light. One bitterly cold evening after closing, I was alone, counting the day's takings. The wind chime tinkled. I had forgotten to lock the door. "We're closed," I called out without looking up. "I know." I froze. That voice. I looked up. Xiao Yang stood there, a dusting of snow on the shoulders of a simple black wool coat. He looked different. Thinner, maybe. His eyes were clearer. He held a single suitcase. "My flight to Shenzhen is in 3 hours," he said quietly. I stood up, the coins in my hand forgotten. "I heard. Wanqing came by." He nodded. "I know. She told me. I'm glad you two talked." An awkward silence fell, filled only with the hum of the refrigerator. "Why are you here, Xiao Yang?" I asked finally. He set his suitcase down. "To pay a debt. You don't owe me anything. The divorce settlement was more than fair." "Not that kind of debt," he said. He took a step closer. His gaze was intense, but not demanding. Open. "A debt of understanding. You showed me there was a world outside the gilded cage. You lived in it fearlessly. You woke me up." He swallowed. "I came to say thank you, and goodbye." I looked at him, this man who had been the sun around which my former life had destructively orbited, now just a man in my shop, saying thank you. The last of the old ghosts, the residue of Zhang Xiao Yue's desperate love and bitter hatred, finally settled and faded away. "You're welcome," I said, my voice soft but steady. "And goodbye, Xiao Yang. I hope you build something real in Shenzhen." A faint, true smile touched his lips, transforming his face. It was a good smile, one I'd never seen before. "I intend to." He hesitated, then asked, "One for the road? For old time's sake? Beef noodles. Double beef. Egg." He paused, and a glint of his old stubbornness appeared.
spicy. I couldn't help it. I laughed, a real, loud, unladylike laugh that echoed in the tiny shop. You'll regret it. Probably, he agreed, smiling wider, but I'll eat it anyway. So I fired up the stove one last time for him. I made the bowl with care, ladling on the searing crimson chili oil with a generous hand. I placed it in front of him. He ate it, sweat beading on his forehead immediately, tears springing to his eyes from the heat. He didn't cough, he didn't run, he ate it all, every last bite, meeting the fire head on. When he finished, his face was flushed, his eyes watering, but his expression was one of profound satisfaction. "Still good?" I asked, handing him a glass of water. "The best," he rasped, drinking deeply. He stood, picked up his suitcase, and walked to the door. He turned, looking at me, at the shop, one last time. There were no more words needed. He gave a final, respectful nod. Then Chen Yang walked out of my shop, out of my story, and into the cold, promising night, to begin his own. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, the silence of my own kingdom settling around me. I looked at the empty bowl, the used chopsticks. I looked at the gleaming stainless steel, the sacks of flour, the jars of chili. I felt the tired ache in my feet, the pleasant sting of broth splattering on my wrists. This was it. No more plot twists, no more villains or male leads. Just me, Jiang Xiaoye, the owner of a successful noodle shop, the woman who chose a simmering pot over a gilded cage, the honest weight of dough in her hands over the hollow weight of a diamond on her finger. I cleaned the bowl, wiped down the counter, and turned off the lights. As I climbed the narrow stairs to my small apartment above the shop, a deep, unshakable contentment warmed me from within.